All right, Shalom, Israel. This is Israelite School, Universal Practical Knowledge, under Commander GEN.YAHANNA. Since 1969, we've been teaching the truth about this Bible, you understand? Teaching all you so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans that you are the true Israelites according to the Bible, you understand? You know what I'm saying? We've been bringing it out since 1969. This is the I.S.U.P.K. Cincinnati class. I'm Officer Napataza Alaban, you know what I mean? Camp leader for Cincinnati. Last week we started on talking about Joseph and how the Most High was with him and just breaking down the story of Joseph. We're gonna try to wrap that up today, and then obviously with the wicked holiday Valentine's being tomorrow, we're gonna get into a little in YouTube or Facebook. I'm gonna get Facebook popping so just in case I can see. So if you got any questions on Facebook, you can post that as well. All right. So with that being said, let's get back into the story of Joseph. Like I said, we're gonna wrap that up, and then we're gonna do a small breakdown on Valentine's Day if we got time. All right. Let's see where we left off with Joseph. You know what I mean? And if you haven't read the story of Joseph, you need to go back and read. That's a powerful story with a brother, you know what I mean, through, you know what I mean, just terrible predicaments that he was in from his brothers. Like I said, last week we covered how his brothers, they hated him because he was his father's favorite. And not only that, he had a dream, you understand? He had a couple of visions where basically it was saying that his father and his brothers was going to bow down to him. Hey, do me a favor, priest. If you could, I'm gonna have you run down so you can grab that charging for me. That charging cable. It should be right in the dash in the cigarette charging plug. All right, the one. And he ended up, being put into slavery. He was a servant in Potiphar's house, and Potiphar was basically the king in favor with Potiphar and Potiphar's house, and Potiphar basically gave him all that he had. He handed it over to Joseph, and Joseph managed everything. You understand? So let's get back. Salakia, let me find where we left off, and then we're gonna get right back into it. Bear with me 1 second. Definitely we're not gonna be able to cover the whole story. Like I said, there's a lot to it. There's so much in here that could be broken down, so many lessons, you know what I mean, that we could get from this. But I'm definitely gonna get into pick up where we left off because there's some stuff I want to bring out around that. All right, so we left off at chapter 39, probably around around 17. All right. Actually, we're gonna start at verse 20. Captain of the guard. And everything was going smooth, you know what I mean? Everything considered wants to lie with him, right? And so obviously he knew that it was a sin, you know what I mean? He knew it was a sin to lay with her, and she was basically just him up. So come to find out, he wouldn't lay with her, he wouldn't sleep with her. So she told Potiphar, and Potiphar cast him into prison, and that's where we're going. So let's say verse 20. This is Genesis chapter 39, verse 20. And Joseph's master took him and put him into the prison, a place where the king's prisoners were bound in his sight of the keeper of the prison. And that's an important part for Israel to remember. You know what I mean? You're going through trials and tribulations. And I hate to sound Christians because Christians always say, I'm going through trials and tribulations. Oh, be with me. Here's the difference. The Most High is not with them. You understand? The Most High is with Joseph here in these scriptures because he could do that wicked thing. He probably could have got away with it. He could have slept with the old nasty heathen. you know what I mean, and continued to do his job and would probably, you know what I'm saying, probably wouldn't have got caught. But he knew that the Most High had eyes on him. He knew that the Most High sees everything, you understand? So he didn't do it. And that's why the Most High is with him. And he knew when he was going through these trials that the Most High was with him. Between him and Christians is the Most High not with them because they not doing what the Lord commanded them to do, you understand? They go and do everything but what he said to do. He say, you know what I mean, people come to church to be flashy. Like, who does that? You know what I'm saying? Church ain't a place. Well, I guess it is in the Christian church. You go there just to kind of show out. But that ain't how Israel rock, you know what I mean? We lift up one another. All right? So let's keep going. Verse 22, and the keeper of Joseph's prison committed to Joseph's hand all the prisoners that were in the prison. And whatsoever they did there, he was the doer of it. Here's just another example, you understand? When you're going through a trial, the Most High is still with you if you're doing what you're told to do. And the master of all Potiphar's house. So here's now another example. He's going through another trial, but he's the whole time he's keeping the law, statutes, and commandments. You understand? And here we see another example of the Lord being with him, because it said that nothing get done. Look not to anything that was under his hand, because the Lord was with him, and that which he did, the Most High made it to prosper. So he prospered in all things. You understand? In all things he prospered just by serving the Lord, and that's what we need to do as a people. Yo, we in Genesis 39 and verse 40. If you can pick up there. No, I'm 12 right here. I got this. Do that. It's a lot. All right. And Pharaoh was wroth against two of his officers, against the chief of the butlers and against the chief of the bakers. And he put them in a ward in the house of the captain of the guard into the prison, the place where Joseph was bound. And the captain of the guard charged Joseph with them, and he served them, and they continued in ward. Verse 5, and they dreamed a dream, both of them, each man his dreams in one night, each man according to the interpretation of his dreams. And the baker of the king of Egypt, which were bound in the prison. And this is heavy. They say, I had a vision, and this is what it means. A lot of people just smoking crack. They don't know what the hell that vision means. They just knew that they had a dream, and that was it. They don't know how to interpret it. You got to go to a man of the Lord to interpret the dream. You understand? That's always how it's been. A man of the Lord, that's what you go to. When you have a dream, you know what I'm saying, a vision, you know what I mean, you go to the man of the Lord so he can interpret it. All right. When verse 40, chapter 40, verse 6. We just continuing on with the story of Joseph. We're gonna wrap that up, or try to get you know what I'm saying, bring out a few lessons on that and try to get most of it wrapped up, and then we're gonna hit a little bit on Valentine's Day, you know what I mean? There's already a ton of classes out there, but I do want to bring out a couple of points. Mainly that it's a sin, you know what I mean? Go ahead with Joseph, verse 6, if you could, 40, verse 6. And come a little closer if you're good too.
Come. So like you said, boot me out, let me get back into it.
Okay, ain't no sweat. 40, verse 6.
Genesis 40 and 6.
Go ahead.
Joseph came into them in the morning and looked upon them, and behold, they were sad.
Go ahead.
Verse 7. And he asked Pharaoh's officers that were with him in the ward of his Lord's house, saying, wherefore look ye so sadly today? And they said unto him, we have dreamed a dream, and there was no interpreter of it.
Mm-hmm.
And Joseph said to them, do not interpretations belong to God?
He said what?
Do not interpretations belong to God? Tell me then, I pray you.
Meaning, the Most High will interpret that dream. You know, he ain't gonna come down directly and interpret it, but the man of the Lord will interpret that dream for you. You understand?
Right. Verse 9. And the chief butler told his dream to Joseph, and he said to him, in my dreams, behold, a vine was before me, and in the vine were 3 branches, and there was as tough as budded,
As though
as budded in her bosom,
blossoms.
blossoms, short forth, and the clusters thereof brought forth ripe grapes.
Right. So the butler, he's breaking down his dream to Joseph. Go ahead.
And Pharaoh's cup was in my hand, and I took the grapes and pressed them into Pharaoh's cup, gave the cup into Pharaoh's hand. And Joseph said unto him, this is the interpretation of it. The 3 branches are 3 days. Yet within 3 days shall Pharaoh lift up his head and restore thee into thy place.
Like Joseph, a bad man. You know what I'm saying? Like I said, the title of the class, the Most High was with him. You know what I'm saying? The average person will read that and be like, well, you know, it's all about the spirituality and the vines, and you about to drink the drink of goodness, brother. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't on no BS. You know what I mean? It's about you know what I'm saying, the Most High being with you to be able to interpret them dreams. You know what I'm saying? Go ahead.
And thou shalt deliver Pharaoh's cup into his hand after the former manner which thou wasn't his butler.
Mm-hmm. So he's basically saying you're just going to be restored back to your place in 3 days' time.
Right.
Go ahead.
Okay. But think on me when it shall be well with thee, and true kindness I pray thee unto me,
Mm-hmm.
and make mention of me unto Pharaoh, and bring me out of this house.
So just said, listen, you had this dream, you know what I mean, and I'm the only one that can interpret it. So when the time is right, you know what I mean, when you get back to your position, make sure you say kind words unto me, unto Pharaoh, you know what I mean, so I can grow in favor, you know what I mean. Like I say, all throughout the story, the Lord been with him, so he's been, you know what I mean, elevated. Even when he was cast into prison, he was elevated to the top of the prisoners, you know what I mean. Everybody reported to him. Go ahead.
For indeed I was stolen away out of my land of the Hebrews,
Mm-hmm.
and also have done nothing that should put me into the dungeon.
Right. So he knew he was innocent. Like back when Potiphar's wife tried to get him, he said, I can't do this wickedness. You know what I mean? He already knew he was innocent. Go ahead. You had a question?
Salaki, a comment,
Mm-hmm.
what he said, and that's a cut right there. He said he was stolen out of the land of the Hebrews.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Showing that, that we all had our own land.
Oh yeah. See, I don't think anybody can argue that. You know what I mean?
Right.
Even when people say, you listen to a lot of these Egyptologists when they battle and they say, well, y'all stole the land, y'all went into the land of Canaan and stole that. No, that land was our land before we was kicked out. You know what I mean?
Right.
Before Adam was kicked out of the land, that was our land. So it's always been our land. You know what I mean? It ain't never been the heathens' land. The heathens moved into the land after we was expelled from the land.
Okay.
Go ahead.
When the chief baker saw that the interpretation was good, he said unto Joseph, I will also in my dream, and behold, I had 3 white baskets.
He had what?
3 white baskets in my hand, on my head, Salaki.
Mm-hmm.
And the uppermost basket there was of all manner of baked meats
Mm-hmm.
for Pharaoh, and the birds did eat of them, of the basket upon my head.
Mm-hmm.
And Joseph answered and said, Salaki, and Joseph answered and said, this is the interpretation thereof. The 3 baskets are 3 days. Yet within 3 days shall Pharaoh lift up his head from off thee, and shall hang thee on a tree. And the birds.
So the butler, he went, you know what I mean, Joseph interpreted his dream and everything was tawab. He was like, cool, you know what I'm saying? That's a good interpretation. And so here come the chief baker, right? Because there was 2 of them locked up. So here come the chief baker and he's like, well, here go the dream. Here go my dream. And his dream, the interpretation was not what he wanted to hear.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Go ahead.
Okay. It shall hang thee of a tree, and the birds shall eat of thy flesh from off thee. Verse 20. And it came to pass on the 3rd day, which was Pharaoh's birthday, that he made a feast unto all his servants.
On Pharaoh's what?
Servants.
No. Go back. Which was Pharaoh's what?
Which was Salaki.
Start verse 20.
Pharaoh's birthday.
Start from the top, verse 20.
And it came to pass on the 3rd day, which was Pharaoh's birthday, that he made a feast unto all his servants.
So listen, and just as a side note, this point, you never see anywhere in the scriptures where the Israelites celebrated their birthday.
Right.
You might see, like it said here, this was Pharaoh's birthday. He did a celebration, but them is heathens. You understand? If you identify as Israel, birthdays is not something you should be celebrating. I just wanted to bring that out while we hit that. You know what I'm saying? That's like one of the rare times you see like birthday in the scriptures, and it wasn't even referring to us. It was referring to Pharaoh. You understand? Right. That's another thing, you know, Christians are big on, you know what I mean, birthdays and all these heathen holidays. Like I said, we're going to get into Valentine's Day a little bit later as soon as we wrap up this. Go ahead.
And he lifted up his head of the chief butler and of the chief baker among his servants. And he hanged the chief baker as Joseph had interpreted to them.
So Joseph, you know from here, like the Most High was with him, right? Because that interpretation, you can't just get that interpretation, you know what I mean, out of thin air. That was something that the Lord had to send to him, you know what I mean? What he interpreted as the dreams were happening, it actually came to pass.
Right.
Go ahead.
Yet did not the chief butler remember Joseph, but begot him.
Say that again.
Salaki. Yet the chief butler did not remember Joseph, but forgot him.
So Joseph, in the beginning, before he interpreted the dream, he said, you know, here goes the interpretation. When you back in with Pharaoh, you know what I'm saying, you restore to your position. Don't forget me, you know, show words of kindness so that the Pharaoh may have favor on me. But says he forgot about him. Go ahead. Verse 41.
Okay. Genesis 41:1. And it came to pass at the end of 2 full years that Pharaoh dreamed, and behold, he stood by the river. And behold, there came up out of the river 7 well-flowered kine.
Say that again.
Salaki. 7
favored
9
kine. Kine is a cattle.
7 well-favored kine, and fat-fleshed it, and they fed and they met.
So basically some fat cattle or healthy cattle.
And behold, 7 of the kine came up after them out of the river, ill-favored.
Favored.
So like ill-flavored.
Favored.
And lean-fleshed, and stood by the other kine upon the bank of the river.
Right. So on the brink of the river in this vision, he's basically saying that it was he saw 7 healthy fat fleshed kine. Basically, they just look good. They look like good cattle that you would want to have. And then out of the river came 7 more kine that they was ill favored and just looked rough and something that you wouldn't want to have.
Right.
Go ahead.
And the ill-favored of the lean-fleshed kine did eat of the 7 well-favored and fat kine. So Pharaoh awoke.
Right. So here's Pharaoh. He's having a vision, right? Go ahead.
And he slept and dreamed a second time. And behold, 7 ears of corn came up upon one stalk. rank and good. And behold, 7 years of blasted.
Let's read it again.
So lucky. And 7 years and blasted with.
Read it again. You skipping a word.
Come. And behold, 7 thin years and blasted with east wind sprung up after them. And the 7 then devoured the 7 rank in 4 years. And Pharaoh awoke, and behold, it was a dream.
Right. So mind you, now after the whole the chief butler and the chief baker, it says it was 2 full years. So Joseph spent another 2 full years in prison. Even though he was the man in prison, he was still in prison. You understand?
Right.
So now it comes a point 2 years later, Pharaoh is having dreams, right? He had 2 dreams where basically he just saw 7 things, 7 healthy things get devoured by 7 things that were, ill-favored or, thin or kind of just look rough, you know what I mean? Go ahead.
And it came to pass the morning that his spirit was troubled, and he sent and called for all the magicians of Egypt. Which
was a custom amongst heathens, right? Because they didn't have prophets, they were not men of the Lord, right? What they went into was kind of the magic, you know what I mean, and what you would call soothsayers and different things where people would look to these these heathen magicians, which they really didn't, have any powers, but they would look to them for answers because they didn't have the Most High, you understand? Go ahead.
And all of the wise men thereof. And Pharaoh told them his dream, but there was none that could interpret them.
There was what?
But there was none that could interpret them unto Pharaoh.
Right. There's no other nation. They can't interpret dreams. You know what I mean?
Right.
That's just a sidebar too. That being a part of the 12 lost tribes, you got to understand the nation of Israel. Like we the only nation with a God. You understand? Everybody else, they follow idols. You know what I mean? If you haven't read the Apocrypha, you know what I mean, get an Apocrypha, go online, go to Amazon. They got them pretty cheap. I think they're around $11. But go online and get an Apocrypha and read the story of Baal and the dragon. That's a good one. You know what I'm saying? If you never read that story, you got to check that out. Or Baal, Salaki, it's not Baal. I'm thinking of the pagan deity that's worshipped, but Baal and the dragon. That's a heavy story for just to kind of put in perspective what heathens do and how they don't have a God and all they have is idols. You understand?
Right.
Go ahead.
Then spake the chief butler unto Pharaoh, saying, I do remember my faults this day.
So he said, 2 years later, like, Negro, you didn't have me and you could have been said something. 2 years later, he talking about, I remember my faults. You know what I'm saying? You could have said that to Pharaoh day one. Come get me about this joint. You know what I'm saying? Go ahead.
Okay. And Pharaoh was what with his servant and put.
He was what?
Was wroth with his servants and put me in ward to the captain of the guard's house, both me and the chief baker. And we dreamed a dream in one night, and he and Salaki, and I indeed, we dreamed each man according to the interpretation of his dream. And there was there with us a young man, a Hebrew, servant of the captain of the guard, and we told him he interpreted to us our dreams. Each man according to his dream he did interpret. And it came to pass as he interpreted to us, so it was me, he restored unto me my office, and him he hung.
Right, and so he just bringing it out how he remembered, 2 years ago when he was locked up, because he told the Pharaoh, you was wroth with me and you locked me up, but it was a Hebrew there, and he was able to interpret me and the baker's dreams. You know what I mean? And what he said came to pass.
Right.
Go ahead.
The Pharaoh sent and called Joseph, and they brought him hastily out of the dungeons, and shake And he shaved himself and changed his raiment and came into Pharaoh.
Right. So shaved himself. He didn't shave his head bald because we know from previously in the scriptures, you know what I mean, he didn't break any of the laws while he was there. That's why the Most High was with him. And that's the whole point of kind of reading this story. You know what I mean? So many brothers and sisters in the school or even outside of the school, they got 1 foot in, 1 foot out. And they going through trials and they think that God is punishing them. The Most High is not punishing you. He making sure that you worthy, you understand, to get what he has in store for you. You know what I mean? That's what the scriptures say, he that endured to the end, you know what I mean? He shall be saved. Not anybody who come in for a month, not anybody who come in for, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years. If Christ ain't back in 20 years and you ain't here, then you not saved. You didn't endure to the end, you understand? And that's the whole point of this story. It's such a heavy story for brothers and sisters to get into and understand. You know what I mean? That obviously, like Job is probably my favorite book because the brother just went through so much. You know what I mean? This is another brother that went through a lot. You know what I'm saying? And it was a trial. It wasn't a punishment. If it was a punishment, he would have been put to death. He wouldn't have been raised, to be over Potiphar's house. He wouldn't have been raised above all the other servants. He wouldn't have been able to interpret those dreams. All right, go ahead.
Okay. And Pharaoh said unto Joseph, I have dreamed a dream, and there is none that can interpret it. And I have heard say of thee that thou canst understand a dream to interpret it. And Joseph answered Pharaoh, saying, it is not me. God shall give Pharaoh an answer.
It is who?
God, Salaki, Yahweh, shall give Pharaoh an answer of peace.
And really God, that's interpreted powers or power, you know what I mean?
Flushed it and well favored.
All right, so we're going to skip down. So basically he just recounting, Pharaoh's recounting what he dreamed. So let's see if we can go down for time's sake so we can move through the story a little faster. All right, so let's drop down to 25.
25. Genesis 41 and 25. When Joseph said unto Pharaoh, the 7 good kine were 7 years, and 7 good ears are 7 years.
All right, so
the dream is one.
Right, so he's saying those 7 good cattle that you saw, and those 7 fat, full ears of corn that you saw represent 7 years. Go ahead.
Okay. And the 7 good and ill-favored kind that came up after the 7 are 7 years, and the 7 empty ear blasted, 7 empty ears blasted with the east wind shall be 7 years of famine. Right.
So he explained it to him like you're gonna have 7 full years of prosper, and the next 7 years are gonna be 7 years of famine. Right.
Okay.
Go ahead. And the Most High is such an architect, you know what I mean? Just how all this, played out for Joseph. You know what I mean? Joseph was put in a position where he could serve the Most High and do what was necessary, to continue to be a man of the Lord. And he did it, you know what I'm saying? And that's another thing people feel like you got opportunities all the time, you know what I mean, to put in more work, or, you know what I mean, to not sleep with that whore, or to not abort your baby, or to not be a homosexual. Like, you got an opportunity, you know what I'm saying? Like what I learned before I came into the school, I always thought that, you know what I'm saying, brothers and sisters had free will, or like it was some kind of, it was just always something that was supposed to happen. Like, you choose, you know what I'm saying? The Most High give you an opportunity to choose, so you can, you know what I'm saying, do the right thing. You know what I mean? It's easy how many brothers that you know in the world is like, yeah, man, I didn't have to move that pack. You know what I'm saying? I probably could have held out, probably could have got a job doing this, kind of, had options on the table, but just took the easy way out. You know what I'm saying? Right. Like, that's common in Israel. We got to learn that the Most High put these trials in front of us so we can pass the test. But many of us, we fail the test. You understand? Go ahead.
Okay. This is the thing which I have spoken unto Pharaoh, which Yahweh is about to do. He swore unto Pharaoh. Behold, there came 7 years of Egypt, great plenty throughout all the land of Egypt. And there shall arise after the 7 years of famine, and all the plenty shall be forgotten, the land of Egypt, in the land of Egypt, and the famine shall consume the land.
Right. So he's saying you're gonna have a strong 7 years. And then after that 7 years, it's gonna be a famine so bad, you're gonna forget all about the 7 years of prosper. That's how bad it's gonna be.
Right.
Go ahead.
And the plenty shall not be known in the land by reason of that famine following, for it shall be very grievous. And for that the dream was doubled unto Pharaoh twice. It is because the thing is established by Yahweh, and Yahweh will shortly bring it to pass. Now therefore let Pharaoh look out a man discreet and wise, and set him over the land of Egypt.
Right. So he's saying he basically bidding Joseph up. You know what I mean? Go ahead.
Okay. Let Pharaoh do this, and let the man, let Pharaoh do this, and let him appoint officer over the land, and take up the 5th part of the land of Egypt in the 7 prosperous years.
Plenteous.
Plenteous years. And let them gather all the food of those good years that come, and lay up corn under the hand of Pharaoh, and let them keep food in the cities.
All right. So basically the plan is to build up the stock, you know what I mean, so they can sustain now that they know what's coming.
Right.
You know what I mean? Go ahead.
Come. And that the food shall be for store in the land against the 7 years of famine, which shall be in the land of Egypt, that the land perish not through the famine. And the thing was good in the eyes of Pharaoh, and in the eyes of all his servants. And Pharaoh said unto his servants, Can we find such a one as this is a man of whom the Spirit of God is?
The Spirit of God was in Joseph, like we've been bringing out this whole story. Like Pharaoh, Egypt, and Commander GEN.YAHANNA bring it out all the time. Egypt was only great because the Israelites was there. You understand?
Right.
Same reason that America, if you could call it great, only reason that America became a superpower is because they had the children of Israel in captivity. You understand? Like no other nation has such a young nation. You know what I mean? Think about how young, 1776 America was basically founded. But for a nation to rise to be the number one superpower, and have been for a while now, you understand? You get that from having the children of Israel in captivity.
Yeah, right.
Go ahead.
And Pharaoh said unto Joseph, For as much as Yahweh hath showed thee all these, there is none so discreet and wise as thou art.
You the wisest, Joseph. He bigging them up. Go ahead.
Right. Thou shalt be over my house.
He shall be what?
Thou shalt be over my house.
So he went from being sold into slavery by his brothers. You know what I mean? He was a servant in the captain of the guard's house. He rose up through the ranks and became in charge of all of Potiphar's, all his affairs. Potiphar said he don't know what he got. He just gave it all to Joseph, and Joseph just managed it all.
Right.
Falsely accused by his heathen wife, thrown into prison. He's raised up, in prison to be in charge of all the prisoners, right? So from there, interpret dreams, and now he's second in command of all of Egypt. You understand? Now, if you don't understand that, then you need to go back and read the story again. But the brother obviously had the Most High with him because he kept the law, statutes, and commandments. He had several opportunities here where he could have been, like I said, sleeping with the woman. He probably could have got away with it. And, the Potiphar was probably off doing who knows what. He was the captain of the guard, so I'm sure he was busy. But this brother, like I said, the Lord was with him. He followed the laws, and for that, he went through his trials, and he made it through his trials. And that should be a lesson to all the brothers, in the school, all the sisters in the school, all the brothers and sisters looking to get on with the school, Let that be a lesson. serve the Most High in all that you do, and go through your damn trials like a soldier, man.
Right.
Seek counsel. That's the number one thing that you can do when you're going through something. Don't go through it alone. You don't know how many brothers that I talk to, well, I was going through this, and I don't like being around nobody. That's the problem. You there by yourself in your room, ain't talking to nobody who trying to get the spirit built up in you. You just thinking on what you can do for yourself. How you gonna make yourself feel better? You know what I'm saying? Everybody look for feelings. You want to feel better. But what you should be doing is studying the scriptures, you know what I'm saying? Being around your brothers and sisters so they can strengthen you, and just serving the Lord in all you do. You understand? Go ahead, Isaiah.
So like what you're saying is such a heavy point. You know what I'm saying? Like being alone and going through that alone, you think you're alone, but the demons is right there with you.
Right.
You know
You got company, right? Yeah, you got company.
You know, and the only way to get rid of them is to surround yourself with this brotherhood with righteous men.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? You ain't alone when you ain't going through it alone.
Right.
The demons is on your head,
Right.
and they gonna stay on your head until you surround yourself with righteous brothers.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I like that story that General Muhammad told. He was saying how he kept running from the school, and I think he said it's crazy to think about him running from the truth, right? But he was in class one time. I think he said he had been fighting it, and it didn't come in, and somehow he didn't like go into details about it, but he ended up being paralyzed to a point where something happened. It's like, all right, well, okay, it's time for me to go to class. You know what I'm saying? It's like you can't run from this, man. With the Most High, and you shouldn't run from it. You know, if the Most High choose you, like you need to take that, man, and be happy and understand. Like the Most High don't choose he don't choose everybody. You know what I mean? He just don't. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Like you were saying, when the Most High choose you, it's a glorious thing. You should take that with the utmost honor. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, damn right.
And feel like the most powerful person on the face of this planet. Because when you come to this truth, you have a sense of understanding that you didn't have in the world. And then you sit back and you see how brothers and sisters are being destroyed out here,
right,
and how they're destroying other brothers and sisters,
right,
and stuff,
mm-hmm,
and they're fighting against everything that's righteous and stuff,
mm-hmm,
and you was once part of that, you know what I'm saying? And for you to hear the voice, and for you to hear the calling, there's nothing more glorious and honorable than that.
You're damn right. Go ahead.
Thou shalt be over my house, and according unto thy word shall be all my people be ruled. Only in the throne will be greater than Salaki, will be greater than thou.
All right, so what we're gonna do, to help move through the story a little faster, let's go ahead and jump to 42, because I'm gonna close this out today, so we just kind of get to the meat and potatoes. I mean, all of it. It really is meat, but it's all good. You know what I'm saying?
Chapter 42.
Yeah. Let's go to chapter 42. All right. So basically, just to sum up that part, you know what I'm saying? They done built the plan. Pharaoh done put Joseph second in command to make sure that the plan is fulfilled as far as gathering up enough food and crops for the 7 years of plenty and for the 7 years of famine.
Okay. Genesis 42:1. Now when Jacob saw that there was corn in Egypt, Jacob said unto his sons, why did ye look one upon another? Verse 2. And he said, behold, I have heard that there is corn in Egypt. Get you down thither.
Get down there is all it means.
And buy for us and thrice and fifth, that we may live and not die. Right.
So Joseph's father, Jacob, said that, you know what I'm saying, he heard that it was corn. Now, remember, this is the years of a famine, right? So his father heard that it was corn in Egypt. He's telling his sons, get down there and buy some corn so that we can live. You know what I mean? We're going to starve out here.
Right.
Go ahead.
And Joseph's 10 brethren went down to buy corn in Egypt. But Benjamin, Joseph's brother, Jacob sent not with his brethren, for he said, less peradventure mischief befall him.
Uh-huh.
And the sons of Israel came to buy corn.
Right. So Jacob was worried, you know what I mean, Joseph or Benjamin being young, you know what I mean, he was now the youngest, you know what I mean. So he was like, he can't go. I don't want no mischief. I already lost my one son. Right. So he thought at the time, right? I already lost my one son. You can't send Benjamin down there because mischief might befall upon him. So
right.
Go ahead.
And the sons of Israel came to buy corn among these that came, for the famine was in the land of Canaan.
Which is where we dwelt at the time, in the land of Canaan. Go ahead.
And Joseph was the governor over the land.
Joseph was the man. He was the man next to the man, as Robin Harris would say. Pharaoh was the man. Joseph was the man next to the man. Go ahead.
And he is what that was that sold all the people of the land. And Joseph's brethren came and bowed down themselves before him with their faces to the earth.
Yo, this is crazy, you know what I'm saying? Hey, shalom, sis.
And Joseph saw his brethren, and he knew them, but made himself strange unto them. He spoke roughly unto them, and he said unto them, Whence come ye? And they said, From the land of Canaan to buy food.
Mm-hmm.
And Joseph knew his brothers, but they knew him not.
Yo, this is why I love this story, man. This story is so crazy. This is the brotherhood in this scripture right here is so strong, yo. Because think about, you know what I'm saying, how we is in the world. You know what I'm saying? A brother a step on your shoe in the club, you look at that nigga like, nigga, if you would have been on my shoe like half a nanosecond longer, you'd be dead. You know what I'm saying? His brothers then sold him into slavery. And here they come to buy corn. And he knew who they was, but they didn't know who he was. You know what I'm saying? Right. This story right here is also, there's so many, like I said, I wanted to cover this because there's so many things in the story that you can bring out. For instance, like for people, there's another cut to the fake Jews. Like I was downstairs coming up in the library and I was buying this coffee. And the little heathen down there was asking me about my jacket. She was like, what's that, Israelite? Yeah. I was like, yeah, it's my school jacket. She was asking about Hebrew Academy. I ain't have time to blaze on her educator or nothing, but she's like, yeah, I saw it because it said Israelite, you know, and I'm a Jew. And I was like, just give me my coffee and I left. But like, yo, these devils, they really think that they Israelites. And this is a cut. Like, okay, everybody know, like anybody who's done any bit of studying knows that the Egyptians were a dark-skinned people, right? So how here in that verse you just read, how could Joseph go to Egypt, stand amongst the Egyptians, which were dark-skinned people, and not be recognized by his brothers if he was white? You understand? Right. You understand? So, right. So like, it's a lot of nuggets in this whole story of Joseph. You know what I'm saying? It's like this is damn near. I mean, they got they got a cartoon about it, the Prince of Egypt, I think it's called, or maybe not. But anyway, it's so full of so many dynamics, all the cuts that you want for the so-called Jewish man. You got keeping the laws, you know what I'm saying, and going through trials. There's so many things in the story that you can just bring out. That's why I want to cover it. Go ahead.
And Joseph remembered his dream, which he had dreamed of them, and said unto them, Ye are spies to see the wickedness of the land.
Right. So Joseph really having some fun with him. He going in on him. You know, he said, y'all niggas, y'all look like spies. Where y'all come from? You know what I'm saying? Go ahead.
And they said unto him, Nay, my Lord.
They said what?
Nay, my Lord.
What did his original dream say to his brothers?
That he was going to bow down.
That they was going to bow down to him. And what did they do? They bowed down to him. So listen, the Most High was with Joseph. You understand? Like the Most High knew that he was going to be a man of the Lord. You know what I'm saying? Go ahead.
Okay. Nay, my Lord, but to buy food are thy servants come.
Right. This is one hell of a turnaround, ain't it?
Damn right.
It was one hell. I love the story, man. And he's so full of brotherhood. You know what I mean? After all the wickedness they did, after all that he done been through, being a servant, being a prisoner. You know what I mean? Go ahead.
Okay. We are all one man's son. We are true man. The servants are no spots.
So they explaining themselves. Obviously, you know, they come see a man in power. You know what I mean? It's like, well, you know, let us, you know, take care of our business and get the hell out of here. 'Cause they feel the pressure already. Go ahead.
Okay. And he said unto them, nay, but to see the nakedness of the land ye are come. And they said, thy servants are 12 brothers, the sons of one man in the land of Canaan. And behold, the youngest is this day with our father, and one is not.
Meaning one is dead, right? Go ahead.
Okay. And Joseph said unto them, that it is that I spoke unto you, saying, ye are spies.
He accusing them of being spies. Go ahead.
Okay. By the life of Pharaoh.
And so he's saying, the only way that you're gonna prove that you're not a spy is if you get your younger brother to come here. Go ahead.
Okay. Send one of you and let him fetch your younger brother, and he shall be kept in prison, that your word may be proved, whether there be any truth in you, or else by the life of Pharaoh, surely ye are spies.
Joseph going in on.
And to war 3 days.
So he locked them up for 3 days.
And Joseph said unto them the third day, this do and live, for I fear Yahweh.
Go ahead.
If ye be true men, let one of your brother be bound in the house in your prison.
Of your prison.
Go ye carry corn for the famine of your house.
Right. So he's saying they gotta leave behind one brother, but this one brother, he gonna stay locked up until you come back with the youngest brother. Go ahead.
Okay. But bring your youngest brother unto me, so shall your words be verified, and ye shall not die. And they did so.
Right.
And they said one to another, we are verily guilty concerning our brother, and that we saw the anguish of his soul when he besought us, and we would not hear. Therefore is this distress come upon us.
So read that part again. Is that Barzal? What's up? Shalom, Barzal. Y'all Bashim Shabrakta.
And they said one to another, we are verily guilty concerning our brother.
Man, we guilty concerning Joseph, man. How we dealt with him, that was wrong. Go ahead.
And that we saw the anguish of his soul when he besought us. And we would not hear. Therefore
our brother came to us and we
spake I not unto you, saying,
Here go Reuben. Didn't we read that last week when we covered it? Reuben was like, nah, we can't kill our brother.
Right.
And Reuben, you know what I mean? Okay, Reuben is saying this, right? He's saying that we shouldn't have did it, but the whole thing should not have been done anyway. Reuben, but the right thing would have been to be like, nah, take your hands off my brother. He my brother too.
Do not sin against the child, and ye would not hear. Therefore, behold, also his blood is required. For he spoke unto them by an interpreter.
Like, think of it the whole time.
Also, like he was handling all of the business.
Right.
So he's dealing with all these people that's coming in from different lands, learning the language, learning how to deal with them.
Right.
So he spoke to them everything.
Yeah, I mean, the scriptures don't really say how many, but if he's dealing with all the nations and all the commerce, and, you know what I'm saying, handling the Potiphar's business when he was in Potiphar's house, and, you know, he was over the prisoners when he was locked up in prison, and then he became second in command under Pharaoh. Like you said, the Most High increased it.
Damn right.
You got it.
Come. And he turned himself about from them and went and returned to Salaki. he clouded on Salaki, sir. And he turned himself about from them and went and returned.
But he was touched though, you know what I'm saying? Because he started crying. He's like, these my brothers. You know what I mean? Think about like I said, think about the brotherhood in the story. Because he could have saw his brothers like, you niggas, I got you now. You know what I'm saying?
He got him killed.
Right. He could have killed him on the spot. It's like, y'all killed me. You know what I mean? Y'all sold me into slavery. He could have just been vile. He could have had him, beat. He could have had him, you know what I'm saying? I don't know. Whatever he wanted to do. He was second in command. So whatever he wanted to do, he could have did it. You know what I'm saying? But that's the brotherhood in the story, which, like I said, really ain't the point of the story, but it's just something to call out when you're reading the story. Like I said, there's so many aspects to what you can get from this, and this is one of the heavier parts. It's like, man, that's not only brotherhood, but that's mercy. You know what I mean? Because he in a position of authority to where he could harm his brothers. But you know what I'm saying? He saw them, man, and they was talking, and he saw how they was. He wept, man. He was like, man, these my brothers. I can't, you know what I'm saying? I ain't gonna do them wrong. You know what I'm saying? Just several examples of where he could have did wrong. Like I said, he could have slept with the heathen, but he didn't.
Right.
Go ahead.
Okay. And he turned himself about from them and wept, and returned to them again and communed with them, and took from them Simeon, and bound him before their eyes.
So here, I mean, even though he's being brotherly to them, he, you know what I'm saying? yeah. He's still having his fun. So he bound Simeon up before him, right? Knowing the whole time that he wasn't gonna do nothing to him. But he bound him up in front of them, and they just like, they shook. You know what I'm saying? They come to this land to buy corn. The land of Canaan is a famine in the land of Canaan, just like it is in Egypt. You know what I'm saying? So he got them, man, by the, you know what I'm saying? Go ahead.
And Joseph commanded to fill their sacks with corn and to restore every man's money into his sack.
All right, so get that part. Get what's happening. Like he's not only giving them,
filling them up, but he ain't charging them either.
Well, we'll see. Keep going.
Okay. And Joseph commanded to fill their sacks with corn and restore every man's money into his sack, and gave them provisions for the way of this did he unto them.
Mm-hmm.
And they laded their asses with the corn and departed thence.
Right, because everybody who came there, they went and bought, you know what I'm saying, corn. But he gave them their money back, so go ahead.
And as one of them opened his sack to give his ass provender,
mm-hmm.
in the end, he espied his money, and behold, it was in his sack's mouth.
Right, so, okay, keep going. I ain't gonna give it just yet. Keep going.
And he said unto his brother, my money is restored, and lo, it is even in my sack. And their hearts filled them. Salaki failed them.
They said,
what is it that
like I said, man, this story
spoke roughly to us in the land of Canaan. And the man, the Lord of the country, said unto us, hereby shall I know, hereby shall I know that you are a true man. Leave one of your brothers here with me, and take food for the famine and of your household. Me have ye bereaved of my children.
Mm-hmm.
Joseph is not.
He's saying, man, I'm grieving because Joseph is gone. Go ahead.
Me have ye bereaved of my children.
Mm-hmm.
Joseph is not.
He's saying, man, I'm grieving because Joseph is gone. Go ahead.
And Simeon is not.
Simeon is gone. Go ahead.
And ye will take Benjamin away.
And now you're trying to take Benjamin away from me. Go ahead.
All these things are against me.
Like Jacob is, you know what I'm saying? The story already said how Joseph.
Bring him not to thee, deliver him into the hand
Go ahead.
And he said, my son shall not go down with you, for his brother is dead. He is left alone, as mischief befall him. Lucky.
If anything,
43:1. And the famine was sore in the land. Thou will not send him, we will not go down.
they should. You know what I mean?
Said unto us, ye shall not see my face, except your brother be with you.
They should.
And Israel said, wherefore? And they said to the man, we told him according to the Salaki, send the lad with me, and we will arise and go, that we may live and not die. Salaki, send the lad with me, and we will arise and go, that we may live and not die, both we and them, and also our little ones.
Clarissa Jones, it's not of Christ. What does that mean? The sister.
If I bring him out unto
And they didn't dwell with the Egyptians, which is another heavy part of the story. Commander GEN.YAHANNA always bring it out, how Joseph was in his wisdom had separate land from the Egyptians, because the Egyptians had all kind of heathen customs that we didn't do. But it's a powerful story of going through trials, of serving the Most High, and you know what I'm saying, being brought through those trials. It's a story about brotherhood. It's a story about, you know what I'm saying, who the Israelites were. Like I said, if Joseph was white, how did he go and hide amongst dark-skinned people? So you get a lot out of the story, as you can from, you know what I'm saying, all the stories in the Bible. But this is one of my favorites. Unfortunately, we're not going to have time to do it all, because I want to get a little bit into Valentine's Day. Clarissa Jones said, I said that because he said it is a sin. It's not a sin, it's just not of Christ, because all kind of sinful